morning, everybody. It is the 13th of November, and I want to do some really quick XRP analysis for you. I hope this is helpful. I've had some pretty great comments from people. Glad to hear that you're liking these videos. So before we begin, just kind of a quick recap of the way that I do analysis and my kind of observation on XRP, historically speaking. I've been a long-time holder of XRP, you know, I have a very strong fundamental belief in it long-term, as I think it's the best, really not just crypto product. I don't know if I'd even consider it cryptocurrency. I guess it is, you know, by its nature, but it's more of a financial instrument that's nothing like anything else on the market because of how fast it is and the fundamentals behind it. So there's some big conversations coming out of the space with lots and lots of really big players that could really drastically change the valuation of XRP. And so I believe that there's a value in looking at fundamentals as well as technicals. So technically speaking, you know, you'll see that there are these different periods of resistance which get broken, and then there's this big explosion. And I think today is, you know, no exception. So we're looking at a very long decline, really the longest to date. Well, actually, it's not entirely true. There's a lot of previous charting on here that just doesn't show up because, after all, Bitstamps, you know, price action for whatever reason only goes back to December of 16. Unfortunately, I really wish we had a lot of the price action in the past, but we just don't. If you know a way of getting that, please let me know. I'd really appreciate that. At any rate, here we have some recent history. You'll see that the resistance was broken, which is very interesting. What I think is kind of also interesting is if we change out of logarithmic, it was the moment that it was broken here that it really exploded. It kind of went sideways for a little while, and now we see this new uptrend beginning after a sell-off. You know, there could be value in that. I think you see a touchdown here. I think people look at it differently, and people make their decisions differently. Some people prefer the traditional method. Some people prefer logarithmic. I personally prefer logarithmic, considering that crypto is such a you know, a volatile instrument that I think it's valuable to look at it in this scale. So we've seen a couple different things here. Broke it, attempted to break it again, failed, yet didn't drop down beneath this green line that's been established. In fact, it bumped up against the support that also aligned right here as a previous high. And then I think most importantly, lined up way back here with the previous all-time high, okay, which I think is interesting. I don't think that we'll see anything south of this ever again. It's 37 cents. I just don't. Now I have a trade that was proposed to be entered right here, which was successful. We you know, exceeded the red line. I'm going to switch to 4 hour, actually 1 hour, so we can see it in a bit more detail. Okay, so the entry was right here. Good entry. Dipped down a little bit, touched that green line, and we've touched it, well, close to it. 1, 2, 3. Let's call that 4 almost. In fact, we started using the red line as a bit of support, which I also think is kind of interesting. We're coming up on a pretty important decision-making process time, really between now and November 16th. Some things that are interesting about that and some things that are troubling about that, because we're kind of in a state of uncertainty right now. Let's call it that. The things that are uncertain is the state of Bitcoin and the vulnerabilities that it has, fundamentally speaking, and how XRP is currently tied to it, okay? We're not in a place in which XRP is fully, you know, decoupled, as some people will say. I don't know if I like that word, because I think it will be inextricably linked with it for a little while, until more volume comes on the market, and until there's not just exchanges, but more banks that actually have the capability of offering XRP, which, by the way, we've been seeing lately. you know, at least in terms of rumors that are going around. So I think it's interesting, but we're not there quite yet. The other thing, fundamentally speaking, that I think is interesting, you know, if we change to the 4-hour time frame, we are seeing higher highs, lower highs and higher lows. So we're kind of coming into this pennant period right here. And, you know, my thought is this: we've broken this, broken it again. I don't really see us dipping down beneath that. I personally don't. And so if there is a move that breaks out from beyond, I'm going to make this a little darker because we have touched it, let's call it 3 times now. That's my guideline for, is it a solid line or is it a dotted line for the most part? You know, will we break this and make a move upwards? I'm not sure. We'll find out, but that's the date that I'm looking at. Now, if we fail that move and it breaks this green line, I think at this point the market sees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 touches and is saying, okay, this is a solid support. We'll see. You know, it's going to be pretty interesting, but I think this is going to be determined really over the next week or so. So if we see some big announcements coming out of Ripple, then I see no reason this won't break, and we could be well on our way to my anticipated target of about $8 for this year. I know that might sound crazy to some of you, but let's pull this out and look at the logarithmic scale. Can anybody say that that this is unprecedented? They can't, because we've seen these massive growth periods in the past. It's not unprecedented, okay? And I think it's perfectly reasonable, time frame wise. Sure, it might be a little bit wishful thinking to have it on this side of 2018, but I think it's perfectly reasonable, especially considering where we're at, considering we've broken support. Broken resistance this many times. And I think this green line could be a very reasonable support. Again, if we break it and we go beyond all this noise in here, if we go beyond it, if we break upwards, then I think we're really on the way to something. If we fail and we break the green support, if we break resistance or break support downwards, then, you know, we could be in trouble. At least in terms of price action on Ripple for now. If we take a look at Bollinger Bands, this is kind of interesting to me because, you know, we were in a squeeze here, we broke upwards. We're in a squeeze here, we broke upwards. I think the market wants to break upwards is the point that I'm trying to make. And I think if we do see a breakout of a squeeze, it'll be a bullish, not bearish. So those are my thoughts for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know if you have any thoughts, questions in the comments. Thanks.